Hi and welcome to the PEPP Story live show. And tonight I'm starting with some guests. I've got guests for most of this week. And tonight I'm starting with Matt Kendall, who is an IEMT practitioner. If you know what that means, you're well ahead of where I was about half an hour ago. So let's get ready and see what this is all going to be. Hi, and welcome, Matt, to the show. So I'm going to ask you right off. We're talking about this IEMT.
There we go.
Trainer. Yeah, there we go. We got IEMT. So just start by helping me understand, because I suspect, like me, most people have absolutely no idea what IEMT means.
And that's why I do speaking, to raise awareness of it. It's not an illness, but to actually sort of get more people involved with what IEMT is. So IEMT stands for Integral Eye Movement Therapy, or technique, if you want to call it. It's more of a technique than a therapy, I suppose. And essentially, it's like if you have a problem, think of it, have your eyes moved, problem lessens. So I work with a lot of people with anxiety, a lot of negative memories, negative emotions, and it's all to do, without getting sort of too deep into it, it's kind of based on why people remain stuck, how to get people unstuck. It works a lot on people's identity. It works on, I say, negative experiences. So I work with a lot of people who have come back from conflict, people who have been attacked by, in any sort of multitude. And I also do more sort of business work as well. So I help people become better at business by understanding their limiting beliefs and then working with those limiting beliefs by understanding how they learnt them, and then helping to reprocess those. So it's just not a factor anymore. And also I work with people who are doing speeches, job interviews, presenting to the board, presenting to investors on the business side as well, to help them work that way. And also speakers, people who want to become better speakers, how to remove the anxiety from being on stage.
So I understand from speaking to you earlier that this is, whilst it's a therapy that deals with deep emotional traumas and things that are blocking, it does it in a way that doesn't involve revisiting that trauma itself.
That's correct. So essentially, it's very much what we call content-free in the therapy world. So content-free means I'm looking more of the structure of what's happening and not the narrative. So not the actual content, not the story. Mm-hmm. So traditional counselling is generally you're going and you're speaking about, say that you've been attacked or burgled. You're generally talking about it, how it affects you, and it can be very re-traumatizing. And it puts a lot of people off, especially men, because if men have been through something, they don't necessarily want, they're not good at talking anyway, especially if it's something embarrassing as well. If they've been sort of abused or bullied or something, they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So IEMT looks more at the structure of the actual issue. So you can look at a memory or an emotion. You can just give it ratings, numbers. I don't need to know what it's about. I just need to know the structure, not the narrative. So people become quite analytical about the problem rather than involved emotionally. So we're not looking for a breakthrough of an emotional release, as it were. I'm actually getting you to look at it quite an objective point of view. And when you change the way that you look at something, the thing that you look at changes. And so it's all to do with how this affects you now and how it can basically sort of readdress it so it just doesn't affect you as much. That's all.
So how have you been able to help people who are really have big fear or anxiety around speaking? How can you help them?
So we have this one guy. In fact, I did an interview with him on my YouTube channel. He was looking for more investors and stuff and to take on staff for his business. Now, what happened was, in his old business, he was literally thrown under the bus by his investors and he had to fire 30 staff just before Christmas. And so, as you can imagine, when he goes up to now speak to people, staff or investors now, he's got all that churning around. So by reducing that down, he's actually been able to speak to investors and his businesses have been able to grow. Also, people doing presentations, a presentation, and that might be, again, for investment. I was actually, until COVID, I was going to go be working at universities to help engineering students to basically give better presentations for funding for their projects, whatever that might be. And so when you actually bring the more human element into it and how you create a story about what you're doing, it becomes more relatable. So I help people with this. Well, with speaking, it always goes back to, our educational system that's almost purposely designed to traumatize kids. When you're basically reading in front of people. So it sounds silly that something that happened 20, 30 years ago can still affect you, but it really can. So having to stand up and read, and you can take on things passively as well. So it can be watching somebody else struggling and reading in front of the class and people laughing at them. But you remember that, you take it on, as yourself. So when I work with people who speakers who want to become better, I can't help them with the technical. Well, I used to do that, but not anymore. So I can't help with them with the technical structure of how to give a talk. It's more to do with what's this anxiety about? Because anxiety is just an overstimulation of the nervous system. So we look at the emotions under that, and it might be because they feel worthless. Fraud is a big one, basically imposter syndrome. Why am I here saying this? Who's going to care? And so I work with a lot of that, and it always goes back to things that happened when we were kids. And once you start to nullify that and basically start to cut the emotional ties, you can actually just speak without tensing it, without all this stuff. So it's not a case of making people feel confident, it's stopping the negativity.
And you've got quite a lot of personal background, haven't you, around speaking? Because I gather your dad was an after-dinner speaker, and you did some stand-up comedy for a while.
I did. So my dad was a bank manager until the age of 50, I believe, and then he retired. And he was always interested in giving talk. He's always been involved in social things around sport. He's never done the sport. He's always done cricket events and rugby events and football events. He's never done the thing, but he's always used to give sort of talks there. And he realized he could actually make a career out of it, like a second career. And so he started becoming an after-dinner speaker and the bank manager from York, and he was quite prolific. And I can remember when I was younger, he was doing 4 or 5 events per week. And
that's quite a grueling schedule.
It was. He used to do loads, absolutely loads. I can remember him working most nights a lot of the time. And but it was great because when I was young, me and my mum used to go and stay in a lot of hotels in London, and which was really good. He doesn't do it now, and he's a bit ill at the moment anyway. So he hasn't. Well, obviously the problems that are going on. Yeah. So that's kind of. I don't know if he'll be doing any more in future, but I got very interested in comedy and stand-up comedy when I was really young. I was 14, 15. And I used to go and do stand-up comedy in York and Harrogate and stuff like that. But I was too young I was snuck into clubs to do it. And I went to Manchester University and I actually got into the finals of So You Think You're Funny up in Edinburgh. But I had a football accident and I twisted the bottom of my spine. I basically pulled muscles out. Yeah, I was standing and I wasn't warmed up or anything. I was just literally in a park and my friend kicked a ball to me and I turned and kicked it and one foot stayed still and the other one, so it just pulled and absolutely pulled my spine out. Not pulled it out, but completely. I was in hospital, had to miss all my exams, had to retake them, and so I only did a couple more after then. And the problem is, a lot of the stand-up comedy world isn't funny. As in the behind the scenes, it was quite a nasty, and I saw some quite horrible stuff with people on the Manchester scene, and I was like, I don't really want to be involved in this. But what I found is I started hosting events, and that's why I really like doing hosting a lot of things. And when you're a speaker, nobody expects you to be funny, but I understand the mechanics of comedy. So now when I do my talks now, I make them entertaining. So I'm almost being able to get that reaction from the audience without them expecting it, which makes it kind of even better. And the people who are coming to see the talk, they're not expecting it to be funny. So when it is, it's almost a relief for them as well, because it's not just going to be a dry sort of psychological talk. It's actually going to be a very fun and involved talk. So I've kind of got the best of both worlds. Your
talks are mostly about IEMT. No,
that's correct. So my main talk, which I do, is called Can You Remove Negative Memories? And essentially, it's a mini workshop. I always find that there are different, as you know, there are different types of speakers, and I've seen hundreds, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of speakers, and I've always found the ones, unless it's a really captivating story, I always like the ones that are interactive and you actually leave with something. I'm not into motivational speaking. I'm not into just feeling, cheered up and all that. If you actually show somebody something they can use and do that has a positive impact in their life, they actually leave with something of value. And that's how I've always based my talks and workshops, whatever I do. So when I do IEMT with people, I get the whole audience to actually do it, and they learn a real skill that they can use to reduce. I teach them 4 skills within the actual 2-hour talk, and they can then go away and use these skills, and and then I do training. So that's why it kind of comes back. People actually come and do the training with me. That's the aim of it.
And this, if you want to know about this is at the IEMTacademy.com. Yeah, that's right.
IEMT. Yeah, I'm in the process of redoing the whole website at the moment, but yeah, you can certainly go on to the IEMT Academy. I'm most prolific on Facebook and Matt Kendall. Or if you just type in IEMT or Matt,
I've got that one there, the Matt
yeah.
Kendall.
I'm easy. I work very hard to make my life public. So.
so tell me about interesting talks, because this seemed to. How long were you at this? I mean, this is literally hosting events in London, St James's Church, and other venues, which using quite well known speakers. And I know quite a few PSA members you've had long to there. So how long were you running that? And
I'm technically still running it. I started it in 2000. Oh, do you know what? In fact, I think it's our birthday on the 11th of January, thinking about it. So it'll be 10 years. I started it in 2011. I forgot about that. And for a long time, it was kind of like my main work. I was running 2 or 3 events a week. And it was mainly to do with self-development, in that without it being motivate. When I say motivational, we don't have people standing on chairs and clapping and walking on coals and saying everything's great. We did have coaches. We had lots of therapists.
Have you ever walked on coals?
No, it's a stupid thing to do.
I have a long time ago, but I was cajoled into doing that.
It's what I have found in the speaking sort of area that I am. You get an awful lot of people who are basically like little Tony Robbins ripoffs, basically.
Yeah,
and that's just all they are. They're just like. Just believe in yourself and go for it. Well, that's not a talk. That's a text message. Just send me that. Don't waste 2 hours of my time trying to just basically like repackaging fluff. And so the talks that we had everybody from like Sean Atwood, who's massive on YouTube now, who was a drug dealer in America, and he was sentenced to 6 years in hard time basically, and he's now a reformed character and an advocate for. Prisoners and rehabilitation and drug use and drug addicts, and just everything's on. His YouTube's absolutely massive at the moment. He's got like 500,000 subscribers. He's doing a lot of good work there. We had business speakers. We had people who are a lot about sort of flow states as well. That was really good. We're all different. We even had magicians talking about misdirection. In fact, you'll know quite a few people who we've had, and from that side. But we had a lot of hypnotists, a lot of coaches, lots of therapists. But the whole point about interesting talks, Meetup is a platform where people come to meet people, because once upon a time you could do that, go and meet people. And so I understood the platform, and we used to have, there was a very strict structure that I created, like the actual format. And it was a 2-hour event from 7 till 9. People arrived at 6:30, chatted, whatever. It was 7 to 7:45 first talk, then 15 minutes break, then 8 to 8:50, then it always goes over a little bit. So we sometimes had 2 different speakers, or we'd have a panel of speakers, or we'd have one speaker that did the whole evening. But it was always very structured when you took breaks, everything like that. And yeah, I've done 500 of those events, and it was the biggest speaking. Yeah, thank you. I was doing 2 or 3 a week, and I was doing workshops at weekends as well. So I used to do a social circles workshop where I taught people how to create and maintain social circles in London, because it's it really is an art form down here. It takes a lot of work to maintain social circles. And I used to do one about anxiety. I used to work with people for doing anxiety as well, and conversational skills. So how to have really great conversations, because people are losing that ability. In fact, I might do that again, thinking about it. And so I've been running that for years, and it started off above a pub, the Comedy Pub in Piccadilly area. And then went to Piccadilly, the church there, and ran hundreds of events there. Then went to Earl's Court, ran hundreds there. And now I do them online because we have to.
You are running them online now?
Yeah, I'm running them online. I promote a lot of other people's and stuff as well. But generally, I run my own talk, Can You Remove Negative Memories, which is just a one talk, which I do. But I've also started something called Psych Talks, or Psychologically Speaking. Psych Talks was the abridged version. And that was like not a panel event, but we had several speakers, like a multi-speaker event. And again, we started running that at the Curtain Club in Shoreditch, Old Street area. And so the last one was about sort of neuroplasticity, which was fantastic. So we'll have 3 speakers speaking about a particular subject. And we did that online. It worked very well. So we're probably going to do that again, because I think that the online space is growing. And I think we're going to have this for quite some time. I don't see the speaking business going back to what it was. So
this is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I think generally the conversation around the Professional Speaking Association is that this year's off. Nothing much is going to happen this year.
I agree.
By the time we get to 2022, we will have had 2 years of adapting to a new environment, and I think, as people start to think, we'll go back to the old way, they'll suddenly think, oh, my God, that's expensive. And they'll suddenly realize just how convenient and easy, and how much. It's like anything. If you're faced in a position where you have to do it, then everybody gets involved in making the technology work for it.
Of course.
It's almost like war, isn't it? You get most innovation happens in a war. We're in a battle now. We're battling against, a disease that we have no idea, even now, whether we're going to beat it. We might be able to get some control on it, but I frankly am not convinced that it's going to go away. We're just seeing all these mutations happening, and to be honest, the PSA had our convention last October, best event I've ever attended. Absolutely brilliant. Doing online juggling and face painting and all sorts of things that I didn't believe online, but it created an event which literally went on pretty much non-stop for 6 days at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And yet I got to meet more people than I would normally have done. So that was absolutely great. So talking about that, which was quite fun, you're involved with something called Funzing. What's that?
Funzing was basically like it was an events company. It was meant to be called Fun and Amazing, but it didn't really work, that name. And I don't know what's happening with them at the moment. It started in Tel Aviv, and it was meant to create things for you to do after work and on weekends. And the platform was kind of like, how Eventbrite is. Everyone publishes their own event. Yeah, Eventbrite. Everyone publishes their own events, which you could do. They had to be approved, but basically they held their own Funzing talks. And so I worked with them right from the beginning, actually, right from the sort of the outset. And I would do usually a couple of talks a month for them. And what they would do is they would basically take over clubs, pubs midweek when it was kind of empty, and you'd get 80, 100, 120 people coming along for a social event and to hear a talk. So I used to do my talks there. I used to do a few talks, but obviously the How to Remove Negative Memories was my biggest. And it was a great way because it was a profit split between the company. They did all the promotion, they did everything. And when it worked well, it was great. When it didn't work well, it wasn't so great. Like sometimes a host wouldn't turn up or something like that, which I had to host the event myself, which was quite fun. But I'm used to doing that, so I was fine. But I used to go to Brighton a lot to speak. I used to go to Bristol a lot. I used to play a big venue in Bristol called Hen and Chickens, which is it's a comedy venue, and it was absolutely great. And so I used to speak in Wales, Manchester a few times, and so it was just like an agent. Was it an agency? It was kind of like a corporation. They would work with the speakers, but they had different levels of speakers. They had like Richard Wiseman and all different kinds of people speaking with them.
So it's Interesting Talks and Funding. Are they now still online opportunities for speakers who want to showcase?
Interesting Talks, yes. We do two different things. With Interesting Talks, if a speaker's got their own event, I offer it's a very simple promotion. It's a one-off fee to have your event put onto my group, which has got 25,000 members. I've got one this evening. There's registered about 40, 60 people for a webinar about sleep. And funding, I don't know. They chose to stop doing the live talks before the whole pandemic. So
right.
I think they are doing some online stuff now. I don't know. I don't really know the situation with them. I haven't worked with them for some time, to be honest.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, it's a great company, though. They do some really good stuff, but I don't know what's doing with them right now.
So you're obviously like all of us now working online. How are you finding, are you doing more of your therapy work now, or are you still doing a fair amount of speaking?
Well, in terms of therapy, my main work is being a therapy trainer. Right. I've been doing one-to-one sessions, like we're doing now I've been doing that for a couple of years online anyway, because a lot of my clients are in America. And so I've already been working online with people. I did have a clinic down at London Bridge where I do my one-to-one sessions and also my trainings. It was like a clinic / training school, for therapists. I used to hire the training rooms there. And then I wasn't allowed.
Can I just ask a question? Having done both and now having had to do stuff online, do you think face-to-face or online is more effective in terms of therapy?
Well, it's very effective online. I still prefer to have it sort of one-to-one, just because I prefer that. But saying that, so my clinic is in London Bridge and I'm based in North London, Muswell Hill. For me to go do one client, it takes conservatively 3.5 hours of my time. Yeah. So, because I've got to travel there, I've got to do the session, travel back, and so everything. If I do it now online, it's log on at 2 minutes to, log off at 2 minutes past, and it's done. So it's more convenient for me. But the problem is that when I'm working with somebody doing therapy, they've got dogs running around, they've got Amazon delivery, so you've got that kind of stuff to battle with, which you wouldn't get in a clinic, which is, what I'm used to. But it's still very effective. But the training, we weren't allowed to do the training online. It had to be an in-person training. But obviously they've realized that this, isn't going to change. So there are a number of, I think there's about 12 to 20 trainers, maybe all over, India, America, and in the UK. And it's different. So my 2-day training, I've made a 3-day training, just because I find it more intense to be sat watching a computer screen as opposed to being in a room. So people need more breaks. And also because I use breakout rooms. So if I'm setting an exercise for like 12 people in a room, I've got 6 couples and I'm walking around and monitoring it. When I've got 6 breakout rooms, I can't see what they're doing. They need to call me. So I'm constantly going in and out of rooms to sort of monitoring. So that's a bit more difficult. And you also have to deal with the fact that some people have got sort of crappy internet connections or rubbishy equipment. So I think that if you are a speaker of any kind, have some, like, this little setup was like 15, 20 quid. All right, I've got a Logitech webcam. That's about 80, 90 quid, but still, it's not a lot of money. And it's just about having some, having some
They
decent...
were a lot cheaper than that before the lockdown.
Oh, I bought this years ago. This is about 2 or 3 years old. This was like one of the top... I don't have my lighting on at the moment. And I might build a green screen so I can have some at the back. But the thing is, one of the problems is I live on a main road, so I get like ambulances and shouting.
I think we've all got... I had a beautiful field behind my house. It's now a building site and has been for a year, and very noisy one. Yeah, my green screen is now a screen that I can drop down and lift up. So I've been slowly investing in little bits and pieces because I've recognised that this is a place I'm going to have to be doing a lot of work, and probably will continue for the rest of my career to be doing.
I
bit from here.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at buying more equipment, new laptop. I've just smashed my laptop, which is fun. So you've got a big sort of black line going through your face right now. I saw my laptop just fell off my bed. I just watched it fall. I thought there's no point trying to save that. That's gone. And so, but I mean, yeah. So sort of speakers out there, I think the best thing to do is get good at using this streaming platform, because Zoom is my thing. I love Zoom. Well, I hate it.
Zoom is a particularly good platform, particularly if you want an interactive environment.
Yeah.
On StreamYard, I can have as many as 9 people here if I want a panel. But it's quite good for certainly 2 or 3 people. I can share screens and play around with it. I can do all these banners and I can bring up all these lower thirds and things.
Yeah.
Easily pop in your address and such like this. So it's actually, and that's more difficult to do on Zoom.
Oh yes, it is.
Another piece of software like Ecamm or OBS to do this sort of thing, which you could do extremely well.
I think that Zoom are not going to be far behind in, I know Zoom is more of a business orientated thing, and this is more of this is a business, but like a streaming is a bit different, I suppose. But I think Zoom are going to, they've got the money now, haven't they? What was quite funny is that during the pandemic, there's a company called Zoom, and the Zoom US, which is the actual thing we're talking about, and the shares in just the company called Zoom is just skyrocketing. I don't even know what they do, but they were very happy. Zoom US were like, no, it's not.
Although I did hear that when they announced that they had a vaccine that was working, Zoom shares dropped by 20%.
I can imagine.
And then I heard that had knocked $20 billion off the price of their value of the company. I thought, whoa.
It will grow again, because the thing is, Zoom at the moment is the market leader. I know that I've not used Microsoft Teams very much, but I think that Zoom, for me, for training and for doing my talks, because the thing is, when I do talk still, I still want it interactive, so I want people appearing. So the meetings is fine. The webinar platform I'll look into a little bit more, which I might use. But I think that
fine. If you start working with corporates, you will have to work on Teams because they use them, and there's a whole load of security. They're uncomfortable because of all the Zoom bombing that started happening. I think Zoom have pretty much handled all that. I've not heard much about any problems. But Microsoft have obviously, they want their corporate market. They have just released a whole bunch of upgrades which bring Teams not up to where Zoom is, but and this one, StreamYard, has just been bought or has just merged with Hopin. Hopin is one of the main convention platforms. So for one-to-one stuff, but if you've got constant speakers coming and going and all sorts of events, you need a big framework in which to hold that.
Yes, you do.
So you can have Zoom meetings and networking meetings and everything. Our convention was done on Hopin, and I absolutely loved it. Brilliant. All of us did. So let's just talk about how you could help people that might be watching this who are thinking, oh my God, will this help me? What's the what's the main benefit, do you think, of IEMT for speakers? Just in summary.
Okay, so IEMT, I cannot make you better skill-wise, but I can help you with anxiety, limiting beliefs, and issues that you might have around speaking. So it doesn't matter if that speaking you're going to present, or you're going to even meet an agency to sort of put your kind of talk across. When you become anxious, your thoughts are all over the place. Your mouth goes like, all those different kinds of things. So it doesn't matter how good you are as a speaker. If you have anxiety and all these negative beliefs of why are these listening, why should these people listen to me? If you've got all that going on in your head, it's going to obviously affect your performance mentally and physically, because as you become stressed, your body will constrict. I still get this. I still work on myself. I get it all the time still. So I can really help with sort of like the psychological side of speaking. So basically, again, if you're having problems with audience, or I know kind of different here, but basically, if you think about sort of the limiting beliefs, and also if you've had some bad experiences, which every speaker's, died on their arse, I think is the technical term, is, I've had that. And it's just been really hard sometimes, because the thing is, my speaking is a bit different. I usually do it in social settings, and people are often a little bit tipsy because it's at night as well. So I've had to deal with some right stuff. So if you've had really negative experiences, past experiences, I can help to change those, but also emotions around that, and also your identity. Because I think that people have different identities when they're speaking, which I think is a good thing. I really do. I can help people. Again, I can't help you to write a good talk, but I can help you with the psychology around it, the anxiety, especially without doing techniques, as in, I'm not going to give you breathing techniques or anything like that. It's much more to do about, the internal chatter and all those kind of things, the emotions and things like that. I can help people with.
So we've got three addresses worth for people remembering. If they want to contact you, is that the best place at your Facebook?
You can get me on Facebook. You can email me directly, which is Matt, MATT, at IEMTacademy.com. That's IEMTacademy.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm very easy to find, or IEMTacademy.com, just the website. I'm always around. Just sat here all day, just waiting for people to call me.
Yeah, we've been there. So back at IEMTacademy.com.
That's correct. That's my email.
Right. So loads of videos on your YouTube account.
So because like I say, I train people now, mainly therapists and counsellors, and I do lots of interviews and stuff with people who've been through the course. So yeah, it's just all quite interesting as well, really. So I do interview like this almost. So interviews with people.
I will add these links into the details below. It's a little bit later on. So Matt, thank you very much indeed. It's been really interesting. Yeah, really, really helpful. Glad you got in touch. And
cool.
Really fascinating. So hang on there a second while I just close off the show and just let people know what's happening. Right. So I shall be back tomorrow when I'll be interviewing David Heiner, friend and speaker from the Professional Speaking Association. And David's does a lot of work with schools and a lot of work on success. So we'll be talking to him tomorrow. Don't forget, you can contact me at ricky@rickyarundel.com. Speaking coaching, if you're interested in me helping you put a speech together, develop your existing speech, free 30-minute introductory session just to see how I can help you. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow when we got David Heiner, and have a good night. Take care.